Hey everybody, this is Jesse Weber, and welcome back to Law and Crime Now. We have a huge show today. We're going to be talking about the Ahmaud Arbery shooting, Tiger King, and also whether or not juries can now hear trials over Zoom. So there's a lot to talk about, but right now where we want to start is with the latest in Lori Vallow Daybell. Now, this is that Idaho mother who was ultimately charged in connection with the disappearance of her kids. Now, we know they've both been missing since September, 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan. A lot to break down here, including the fact that when we talk about this case, she is on jail on $1 million bond, and her kids, Lori Vallow's mother and sister have been doing interviews. In fact, there's one that we want to talk about. So Janice Cox, Summer Shiflett, they sat down this past weekend, you might have caught it, with CBS 5's Phoenix Morgan Lowe. Take a look if you haven't seen it.
And maybe she's protecting them from something terrible. I don't know. But I do know that I have faith in her as a mother, that she's doing the best she knows how for her children.
Is there any part of the dark recesses of your minds that say, maybe she cracked and maybe this is not going to end up well?
We have gone through those scenarios probably 100 times.
If something has happened to those children, it is not by her doing. And it's not by her permission to do something. There is no way that she did anything to them. There's just no way.
Yeah, we know her well enough to know that. Yeah. We know that.
All right, so I'm here with Morgan Lowe himself, who conducted the interview, as well as executive trial producer Kathy Russin. Morgan, let's just start from that answer itself. What did you make of that answer? What did that mean to you?
Well, what struck me right off the bat is that these people are defending Lori Vallow. It's her mom and her sister, and that's something that we have not heard this entire time we've been covering this case. But what they did was sort of come up with an alternate scenario. What we've been reporting and what I think how the country has been viewing this case is that she did something to those kids. And what they told us is that that's not even possible for her. It's not in her DNA, that there is no way she could have harmed her kids. And so they believe that she is innocent. They believe that the kids are alive and well, although they don't know where they are. But it was fascinating hearing somebody stick up for Lori Vallow, something we have not heard yet.
Let me ask you the million-dollar question here. Was it your impression that they're hiding something, or that they really don't have more information, which was a big theme that we hear from them, that, look, Lori can't tell us a lot of things because she's in jail right now. So is it your impression that perhaps they're not being entirely forthcoming, or perhaps they just don't know more of the story at this point?
Yeah, I got the impression from them that they are a mom and a sister who love their family member and just can't believe or refuse to believe that she would do anything wrong. When we press them on, what facts, where could they be? They say they don't know where the kids are. They don't know the full story, but they believe that there is a different part of the story. So no facts to support their position, other than they point to her history, couple of decades of being really a model mom, somebody who raised a couple of older kids and then really, took time and care to raise JJ, who, has mental challenges. He's autistic and from all accounts, a bit of a handful, and just loved and doted on her children. And they just can't understand how somebody who spent her life doing that would just change at the last minute, change 1 minute, and then become this cold-blooded child killer. They don't buy it.
This is not the first time that we've heard from Summer Shiflett as well as Janice Cox. They actually sat down for this CBS interview as well, and heard similar flavors to their answers. But in case you haven't seen it, here's another sampling of what they had to say. I believe it was from last week.
He just takes the phone, and he knows who we are.
She can't tell us.
Why not?
She's in jail. She's not gonna, everything's recorded. She can't discuss anything about the case.
And I'm positive beyond any doubt that she hasn't harmed those kids.
So, Kathy, I want to turn it over to you right now. With family members getting vocal about what's happening, let's turn it over to Joshua's grandmother. Now, I know we have a graphic of this. I want to put it up. So this is actually from Kay Vallow Woodcock, Joshua's grandmother. And she said, this is directed towards Chad Daybell, who's Lori Vallow's current husband. Chad, you have the power to stop this now. Lori has lied, and now is the time for you to speak out. If this situation continues, you will truly wish you could portal your way off Earth. Another galaxy won't be far enough to keep you safe. If you think your darling wife won't start singing to save her hide once you're both in jail, think again. You have no idea who you married. We don't know what's happened to the Lori we knew, but she is gone. Kathy, what's your impression, your reaction to what we just read?
Yeah, that's right. And that's just a small portion of that Facebook post she put. She wanted it made public. She wanted everyone to share it. She was appealing to Chad Daybell to do the right thing and to come forward and say where the kids are. She appealed to him as a grandfather because he has older kids, so he has grandkids. She said, we don't get to hold our grandchild. How can you hold yours? She's angry. You know, she's the one that initiated the whole welfare check to begin with. Also, in the interview that Morgan did, Lori's mom and sister think Lori's hiding the kids because she was being threatened, and specifically named Kay Woodcock, saying that Charles Vallow's family was threatening them, and they think that she may be hiding the kids because she's trying to protect them.
Morgan, can you speak about this relationship again? I mean, we know that there's an interesting dynamic here. So the relationship here with Charles Vallow's side of the family and Lori Vallow, I mean, it gets complicated, and you actually need a diagram to chart out everything that you're seeing. But we actually recently learned that apparently Charles Vallow was, filing court documents back in 2006 and was not happy with Lori. I mean, what can you speak about this family dynamic?
Yeah. So Lori's family indicate, we're close with her. We never would have thought she could do anything like this. But it's important to point out that none of them ever went to any of her weddings. They never went to any of her marriages. They say that she had bad taste in men, and they actually spoke very highly of Charles Vallow. But they say that about 6 months before Charles died, Lori had accused him of cheating on her. And they say that at that point, he changed and that he accused her of being in a cult. And that's how all of this came up. And those divorce records that you're talking about are the first glimpses that we have of some sort of, controversy with Lori speaking bizarrely, talking about telling Charles if she gets in his way, she's going to murder him, and some of this strange language that we've heard attributed to her with this cult situation. So Lori's parents believe that that's what started this. And then, of course, Charles died in July of last year at the hands of Lori's own brother, claimed that it was a shooting in self-defense at her rental home here. That case remains under investigation. But the brother, Alex Cox, who pulled the trigger, he died himself a couple of months later. That was recently ruled as natural causes. So we're actually running out of witnesses to what happened during that shooting because Lori was there. Her 2 children were there. They're missing. Alex and Charles were there.
Right.
And both of them have passed away. Just an odd dynamic here.
Let me ask you, follow up with that. Do you think that with the conclusion that Alex Cox died of natural causes, that puts an end to his investigation into what happened to him? Because I know that was one of the question marks. Well, another unexplained death. But I mean, how does that tie in to the Tammy Daybell investigation, which we know her autopsy was conducted? Her body was actually exhumed. She was the former wife of Chad Daybell. Have you heard any rumblings about how this investigation into these multiple deaths is going to continue now, as we just heard what happened to Alex Cox?
Yeah, that's a real problem with this investigation. I mean, obviously not having him here to ask and to question is the number one problem. There was a lot of speculation that him just dying unexpectedly, there had to have been foul play. The autopsy came back in the toxicology, and they said it was natural causes. So they said no foul play. I am absolutely certain, as we are as a news department are showing those autopsy results to other medical examiners to be able to tell us, is there any way that this could have been the result of a poisoning or something? But at this point, there's no indication that that's the case. But it does become a lot more difficult to investigate, Tammy Daybell's death. Her autopsy was conducted. We've told that the toxicology report is taking a little longer than they thought. That could be out any day now. And that is being viewed as a suspicious death. So obviously, toxicology report, what are you looking for? You're looking for drugs and or poison. So obviously investigators are looking into that suspiciously. Whether Alex played a role in that, we have no idea. Obviously the number one, people of interest would be Chad and Lori at this point.
Right. No, and that's a good point. And look, if you're just joining us, what is the latest of Lori Vallow Daybell? Well, her bond to have it reduced was denied. And if you haven't seen it, we aired this about a month ago or 3 weeks ago when we covered it live. Take a listen. This is the judge denying a reduction of bond.
I would certainly invite evidence that conversations are being inappropriately recorded between counsel and client of any sort, whether it's Ms. Daybell or anyone else, to be brought to the court's attention. I'm not sure a motion to reduce bond is exactly the way to do that, but certainly we don't want that happening, and I'm confident that the jail will make sure that that doesn't happen. I happen to believe that Mr. Wood and Madison County Sheriff's Office have great motivation to make sure they don't do that in this case or any other, because it is a serious violation of constitutional rights. And if it actually has occurred, as Mr. Means speculates that it might, and I guess what I should say when I say that if it's actually occurring, what I mean is if conversations between an attorney and client without a warning that they're being recorded are actually being recorded, then that would certainly be something that I would want to know about. But I don't really have any evidence that that is actually what is going on here. So on that basis, I'm denying the motion for bond reduction because I cannot find any good cause to reduce bond further than it already has. And I would invite Mr. Means to consult with local defense attorneys who I'm sure have come up with alternatives during this time, and then also have a long track record of dealing with Madison County Jail. I'm aware that different jails can have very different procedures, and I'm confident that there are a number of defense counsel in Madison County that would be willing to talk to Mr. Means about ways to surmount any virus problems at the jail in regards to communicating with clients.
And that's where Lori remains, jail. Kathy, over to you. What are our viewers' impressions of what's happening in this case? What's their impression of Lori Vallow Daybell at this point as we keep getting new updates every week?
Well, she's replaced Casey Anthony and Jodi Arias as the most hated woman in America. Viewers are furious because they care about the children and they can't understand why a mother won't produce her children or show any proof of life at all. If she thinks they're in danger, she could still show some kind of proof to the court that they're alive, and she's refusing to do any of it. So I can't find anyone except maybe her family members that are supporting her.
Morgan, final question to you. We have about 30 seconds. I know the preliminary hearing, I believe, is scheduled for July. What can we expect next steps for that? I mean, will her mom and sister appear there as witnesses? I mean, what do we know about the preliminary hearing?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because so far, all we've heard are accusations from both sides. Accusations from Lori Vallow's side that there's, improper recording, and accusations on the prosecutor's side that she did something to the kids. And there's really no evidence either way other than the kids have disappeared. So this preliminary hearing is going to be really the first time where the prosecution has to show some evidence. You know, show us your hand, show us some cards. What do they know that maybe hasn't been reported or that we haven't heard yet? So this is going to be an absolutely significant hearing.
And hopefully it's something that we can cover here live on Law and Crime. Morgan, we appreciate you coming on and giving the latest. When we come back, an interesting development in Tiger King. Stay tuned.